Working with Keyen, the biggest things I think that I've noticed um, more in my day-to-day operations, whether it be in my professional life or my personal life, is being able to know what I want, making the decisions of the things that I need to make decisions on, and be able to move those things forward. It is getting my mind into a very kind of black and white scenario of the fact of not being afraid or comprehensive in regarding the decisions that I need to make. It's this is the right decision to move forward, and this is what I need to do. Initially, when starting to work with Keyen, while we were in the coaching space, I am typically a process thinker. So I like to think before I speak. And it was interesting because this process is literally you need to open up, you need to be ready, and you need to be able to push through and work. So the initial process started out a little slow just due to the fact of where my mind space was. But the great piece of that was Keyen was so open about like getting me beyond to where my mind was to get to where I needed to be for the aspect of having the conversation and being in the space that I needed to be able to work through what I had to. During that time in that space, it was very uncomfortable. But I'm going to say that probably long run, it is a good uncomfortable. It That space opens you up to be vulnerable, which in my life and in kind of what I do, I don't tend to be that vulnerable, especially in a one-on-one conversation and perspective of where I'm at. So, and very uncomfortable, but in the place of where I needed to be able to get where I'm at and where Keyen could probably do his best work. I think for me, one of the biggest impacts of working with Keyen, and in the moment that I kind of realized where I was at and where I needed to be, was the perspective of that vulnerability and being who I needed to be. Um, I uh, there's a part of my life that I am very enclosed on regarding medical and some of those things that have happened to me, and I have blocked that piece of it out, especially when doing my day-to-day functions and my work and where I am of trying to stay very level-headed. And in the process of working with Keyen, it was the process also of learning that I hadn't dealt with some of those things, some of those feelings, and some of those processes that I had to get through. And that was kind of one of the biggest ahas with Keyen, was knowing that not only um, that those things happened and those are part of me and what I needed to focus on, but being able to move forward and being able to work through those and using those things that have happened as part of becoming the person that I needed to be. Working with Keyen, I think the one thing that I realized very quickly is the process that we were going through was very much my process. I feel like in past and working with other coaches or experiences that I've had with mentors, it is very much a, hey, this is a cookie cutter moving into like leadership development or whatever it is that you want to be mentored or coached in, where Keyen's process was more about who I am, meeting me where I'm at, and how do we move that next step forward in the aspect of getting me to where I want to be and where I need to be. So it was a very different approach, and I think that going back to what I said a little bit about being apprehensive, was a different feel for me, but it ultimately was the best approach when moving forward to where I wanted to be. To anyone who's thinking about working with Keyen or questioning if this is the right decision, I would highly recommend taking that step and taking that leap. I know for myself that I am in a very different situation and different position due to the fact of the work that I was able to do with Keyen in the aspect both personally and professionally to where I am today. I have been able to be very successful in my career in what I wanted to accomplish, but now in working with Keyen, more of what I want to experience outside of my work career and have those personal goals and to be able to move forward. So anybody who is potentially having that questionability of if this is the right direction or the right coach, I would say to take that leap, because I'm definitely glad that I did. The one thing that I would say, you want to work with Keyen to do it, but the other one to be open to the work that you're about to do. The biggest thing that the biggest thing that I can say to you is to be open to the process and to where you're going. It may not, you may not think you're going into a right direction, or you don't know what you're doing. That's why you have a coach. That's why you have someone like Keyen who can help direct you and move you into that direction. That can help you find the way of where you should be, not necessarily where you think people may want you to be.